Hi, my name is Jaynes. I go by JJ. I've been in North Carolina prison for 32 years, working on 33. Came to death row in 1992. This is my first time doing a podcast, and I haven't spoken to Valerie. We agreed that I would probably talk about a restorative justice class that I was involved in, and I'll read an essay or the story of the restorative justice class. And if there's time left, I'll do a poem that I wrote about the class. And here I go. When I first agreed to give the restorative justice program a chance, I had no idea what it would do to me on an emotional level. At times, it felt like I was aiding and abetting my own torture. At other times, it was as though I were on the verge of some major insight. In the end, it was so much more. I had nothing but the highest regard for John and Joy Powell, the leaders of what I came to call Restorative Justice Circle 21, or just Circle 21. To even want to come to a prison and offer the program is awesome. To want to bring said program to death row is nothing short of amazing. And so many people say we are the worst of the worst and should be long in our grave. It's refreshing to have people willing to give us a voice to actually listen to what we have to say. When I saw which of my fellow death row prisoners would be participating in Circle 21, I was weary. The row is a static population. I've known most of the guys since they first came to the row. The ones here when I arrived in 1992, only a handful remain. Executions, suicides, natural deaths, and resentencings have reduced the original group of guys I first met. Knowing the guys like I do, I know how easy it is for stories to spread. It seems everybody knows the business of everybody else. But it was to be different in Circle. A fast and sure rule John and Joy gave us was this: stories stay, lessons leave. I promised to abide by that and expected the same from everyone else. In the end, my fears were unfounded. So far as I know, my story hadn't gotten out. When the volunteers filed into Unit 3 multi-purpose room, I was uneasy, even apprehensive. In walked a group of men and women that, by their very nature, should be predisposed to be sympathetic to what is spoken of in that room. But I had to wonder, were I and my fellow prisoners a chance to get into good graces of Professor Powell, a way to get a better grade for their GPA? Were we merely a diversion from a jaded life in law school? I had to wonder all of that and more. And if any of that was true, would I be able to notice any telltale signs of such? On the one hand, how could I judge those volunteers when I still wasn't sure why I was there? On the other hand, everyone has an agenda. It just didn't necessarily have to be one of their own 10. During our circle sessions, my opinions that involved volunteers came to be personally held convictions. I came to realize we've all got a story to tell, a trauma in our past that still haunts us. And as I was allowed glimpses of what different that person experienced, I came to care for that person. And I didn't want to. They'd one day walk out of the room and out of my life. Yet I couldn't deny their sincerity. They made themselves vulnerable, as much or more so than I did. I couldn't see those women cry tears of pain and anguish, and not cry for them, and care for them, or to offer what meager comfort my words would allow. Among my fellow prisoners, 8 of us in all, I volunteered to do an opening and tell my story first. I wanted to get the hard parts out of the way early. An opening is a way to open a circle session. One can read a poem, a quote, tell a story, or any number of things. I chose to read 2 poems and an essay about executions. My essay was entitled Vigil. It was a heartfelt glimpse to vigils I'd held for the guys being executed. It was a very personal piece of writing. Those present seemed to appreciate my viewpoint. After an opening or story, there was an affirmation round. Affirmation rounds give everyone the opportunity to comment on what they just heard. You have the option to speak on what was spoken to you, what resonated or not. You can opt out or pass your turn. You can ask to speak last while you formulate your response. Those can be very emotional moments. We affirm so a bit of closure is found to ease the moment. When I told my story, I was a nervous wreck. I spent countless hours writing things down, crossing out this, adding that. I I finally came up with a dozen or so pages that hit the high notes of a life not lived well. When I spoke of my childhood, I didn't go into a lot of detail, as I'm rarely able to do so. I have complex PTSD due to severe child abuse. It shames me that I wasn't able to stop it when I was a child, and shames me still that I can't forget it. As I wrote those pages, I had insights that I never would have realized had I not joined Circle 21. I'm not a comfortable public speaker. When the spotlight is on me, I feel my ears redden, my face flushes, my heart rate increases. I sweat and I talk faster than I need to. I guess subconsciously I want it to be over even before it starts. So I do better by reading my thoughts aloud. I don't have to make eye contact that way. Although while reading my story, I did take a quick look around the room. Miss Joyce smiled at me reassuringly. I needed that. I needed some tangible proof that I wasn't being judged harshly, even as I judged myself. I didn't want to just read my story aloud, so my written part concluded with my first few interactions with my future co-defendant, Shane Smith. At that point, I just told it like it happened, warts and all. I need to say a few things about Shane. I don't really know his motivation to commit crimes. I never knew it. At times, I think it was just a thrill. Other times, the easy money and property was stolen. Like me at the time, Shane wasn't making a lot of money at his job. I didn't have much extra money, but it didn't affect me in the same way that it did him. He is not an evil guy or a monster. He, like me, was a young man on the cusp of adulthood, but not quite there, even though we thought we were. I don't hate him, even though he was quick to throw me under the bus with the police. I think he thought he could talk his way out of things. Yes, he turned state's evidence against me and my family. Yes, his version of the truth veered away from the actual truth, but I forgive him. He was scared and saw a way to save himself. And I always knew he would, if backed in a corner. I expected it, but it still hurt. I committed crimes to help him, yet he made it seem like he was a reluctant participant. While I may lose my life, as Shane and my family members lost their freedom, the real losers are the Acker family. If I have to lose my life for Paul Frederick Acker's daughters to find peace, that's how it was meant to be. I am not innocent. I was there. I was a part of it. An innocent man was killed. There are consequences for those actions. Back to Circle 21. I thought I'd made some connections. I felt like somebody saw past the tired old convict and got me. I put everything I had in with connecting with the volunteers. But then I think about the extra credit. I'm wondering if I'd imagined a connection that didn't really exist. I wanted Circle 21 to be a rousing success. And on many levels it was. I just hoped I wouldn't allow myself to be so caught up in the moment. I felt mentally prepared for the fallout that would come with the end of Circle 21. As a whole, after some time had passed, I feel good about my time in Circle. John and Joy accepted me into their space and their lives unconditionally. Joy's story especially resonated with me. Soft-spoken, her empathy was obvious to all that saw it. As Circle progressed, I felt the urge to want to write again. I used to write poetry. I used the written word, kindly turned, as a way to ease some of my emotions, or to express them in ways that can't be done in conversation. I've been in poetry class, journaling, Toastmasters, creative writing, etc., but had lost the desire to do much writing. Circle 21 awakened something in me that would not easily be put back to sleep. Wanting to show my heartfelt appreciation to the volunteers, I decided to write each of them a poem. I would use something they said in Circle to try to personalize each poem to a specific person. That was me trying to make lasting impressions the spoken word didn't have. I was going to be very intentional in this endeavor. In the end, I wrote around 30 poems. I called them Circle 21 poems. I feel like I really achieved something with what I wrote. There were nuances that seemed to weave themselves in and out of verse haphazardly, but were anything but haphazard. As I knew I would, I cried buckets of tears during Circle. I cried for what I experienced, what I'd done, what I'd never had the chance to do. Some of the stories and openings were so raw, so primal, that at times all I could do was weep. quiet. My PTSD kicks in when I'm aware of the injustices or see another person in pain. In a perfect world, we wouldn't need restorative justice. In a perfect world, there'd be no murder, no rape, no child abuse, infidelity, or battered women. But we are imperfect creatures in an imperfect world. Mistakes are made, people get hurt. It's not always possible to put the shattered lives back together again. I'll never forget my time in Circle. I'll never forget the volunteers that came to hear our stories. They had traumas and stories of their own. Prisoners aren't the only ones that need restoration. While all the men and women made an indelible impression on me, some touched my soul, I'll never be the same. I'm not sure what the future holds for me. I've lived longer than I expected to count each day a blessing. The state of North Carolina still threatens me with a sword of Damocles hanging over my head. A lot of people have come and gone in my life, both on the street and in here. As the years go by, I seem to lose more than I gain. I had the loving support of my cousin Donna. Without her support, I'm quite sure I would have given up long ago. When asked if I'd recommend restorative justice to my fellow prisoners, I readily agreed. It's not for everyone, although in my opinion, everyone could reap the benefits if they just at first accept responsibility for their actions. Not everyone can do that. To Circle 21 participants, I affirm you. And that is my essay, and I will share a poem that I wrote. And I'm so not prepared for this. I'm slow. I'm sorry. So here it is. This is wrote about my experience in Circle 21 as a whole and about the people there. It's called Food for Thought. And it goes, I tasted their life and hungered for more. I was starving, so I gorged on them, filling my mind with theirs. Would I ever get my fill? Would this meal be snatched away from me mid-bite? I jealously guard the memory of that first taste, while I invoke the blessings from the God I feel had denied me to taste of certain delicacies. I gorged on what fare was placed before me, savoring it all as Lord of the feast, nibbling here, supping there, inhaling the fragrant aroma of youth and passion. Even salting the water with my tears, their wine was full-bodied and potent, tasting the summer fruit and ashes. When dessert came a la carte, I indulged to the full. Well, I shall celebrate always the memory of all I tasted, and if memory will always be bittersweet. That's the end of my poem, the end of my essay. I hope everyone enjoyed this and reap some benefit from it.